Good morning and welcome to the Bricktown Urban Design Committee, December 13th, 2017. It is 9:01. Do we have a quorum? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ava Scaramucci.
Here.
Richard McCown. Jonathan Dodson.
Present.
Kasha Egan.
Present.
Omar Curry.
Present.
Sandino Thompson. And Brent Wall.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. You should have received in your packet the minutes from the September meeting. Is there any discussion? Could we have a motion for approval?
A motion we approve the minutes.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, cases withdrawn. There are none.
There's one.
Oh, I'm on the wrong.
Yeah, you're
I'm on the minutes. Okay. Let's start with cases withdrawn. It is BCA 17-00023 at 115 East Reno Avenue. Michael?
This is the case that was proposing a mural on the west elevation of the Whiskey Chicks Wells Fargo building, and they withdrew their application about a week ago.
Is there any, could you explain that just a little bit? How this all, I thought we had approved it, it had gone through due process.
No, we had not approved this before. This was an application that was filed probably in October sometime.
You did approve.
And it went to both, it was going to, because it's a historic landmark, that building is a historic landmark, it's the only one in Bricktown. It was directed to go to both historic preservation as well as Bricktown to get a CA in both venues, and it would need to have those approvals in both venues in order to proceed. It went to HP last week, and there was a recommendation of denial.
Okay.
It was withdrawn before it was heard at HP.
Right.
And I thought we had approved it.
You approved another mural by Jack Fowler.
Okay.
At the site by the parking lot. The wall faces north.
Yeah,
Yes.
on the back side of the IHOP
Okay.
building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
That
in
was
the
his
last
also.
year. That was
Okay.
his also, yes.
Okay. Okay. So when a case is withdrawn, does that mean it just may never happen again, or does it go through due process of
They're welcome to come back and file a new application on the same building for the same thing or for something different. So,
Okay, okay, okay. Let's go to the next item, which is a continuance request. Michael, you want to?
this is the project at the Falls, which it was originally approved for the bulk of their improvements earlier this year. However, at that time, there were concerns raised about the water feature at the front of the building at the canal level, and the applicant was directed to go back and revisit that design, come back with something perhaps a little closer to the wall and less obtrusive to the sidewalk. At this point in time, they were continued to, I think, October, and they didn't have a design at that time, and they still don't have a design, so they've requested another continuance to February.
Is it correct that we approved the other part of their project, it's just this pending?
That's correct.
And how long do they have on a item such as this?
We typically allow an applicant 6 months' time with no forward progress before we close out the case file. So
Okay.
if they don't come through with some designs for the water feature sometime in January in time for the February meeting,
Okay.
We would likely close that case file out, but that would still mean that everything else that was approved is still approved.
So they could move forward with everything
Yes.
else? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to,
So that continuance request needs an action.
Oh,
Case is withdrawn is just a report, but the committee,
Okay.
and we recommended that it be continued to the February 14th.
okay.
I motion that we continue.
Okay, there is a motion to continue. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. 3, consent docket. Michael?
This is an item that-
5.
This is an item that we placed on the consent docket for the committee's consideration. We've reviewed it against the applicable development regulations and design guidelines, found it to be consistent with all such guidelines and regulations. Therefore, we placed it on the consent docket for the committee's consideration and action as a consent docket item.
Would this be the first statue that is of a different sport? Everything else there is baseball related, is that correct?
Do we need to pull this up to discuss it?
Yeah, if we're going to be having a lengthy discussion on it, we should have it, pull it from the consent docket and do it as an item for
Okay.
individual consideration.
Okay, so what are we doing right now? Do we need to make a motion or anything?
No, you can, anybody can request that it be pulled from consent and that there be a, if the applicant's here, they can do a presentation.
Okay, and is the applicant here? Oh, I'm sorry, please come forward.
My name is Brian Guz. I'm an architect with Fitzgerald Associates Architects, and been working on the relocation of the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame. In addition to being the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, they are also the Jim Thorpe Foundation and the Jim Thorpe Museum. The statue currently stands at their facility on Lincoln Boulevard, and we would like for him to come down to Bricktown with us. Our client is very excited about the possibilities of the increased traffic at this new location, and a pretty valuable and pretty recognizable statue of Jim Thorpe
Oh, yes.
is to be located out there. To get to your earlier question, I'm not aware of any, well, first of all, Jim Thorpe did play baseball.
I guess I just don't remember him
He
for
played
that.
pretty much every
He was a
sport.
great sportsman,
Yeah.
yes.
But I'm not aware of any statuary down there other than the Mickey Mantle, the busts on the Hall of Fame, and then the Johnny Bench statue. So we think it's consistent, as he is considered the world's greatest athlete,
Oh.
and he did play baseball, yes.
Okay. Okay. Any comments?
Sighting of the statue was a bit of a challenge, given that that's Mickey Mantle Plaza right there, and Mickey's statue is
Yes.
right out there. We didn't want to compete with him, so we elected to bring the statue back a little bit closer to the building. Also, it's a somewhat awkward entry sequence to the space. The Hall of Fame is going up on the second floor, so you enter the Hall of Fame up that staircase, and so we thought that keeping it back there near the staircase gave a better association with the entrance to the museum, and he wasn't standing out there by himself.
I agree. And is there also an elevator,
Yes, there is.
if I remember correctly, in that?
It's in that little lobby underneath the team
Yes.
store sign. You enter through there. You'll enter into the lobby and go up the elevator to the Hall of Fame.
Yes. Do we need a motion? Is there a motion for this item?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Be a great addition to Bricktown. Good morning.
Sorry for being late.
Okay, let's go to cases for individual consideration. Michael?
This application is for the approval of a repainting over a existing ghost sign on the south elevation of the Kingman Building facing East Reno Avenue. The project is at 100 East California. This building has a bit of an unusual ghost sign in that it looks like to be a double exposure with actually two previous signs having been painted in this location at some previous time. As a result, we were unable to fully decipher either of the two signs together, but the bottom line is that there are some design guideline that applies to the painting of historical painted signage, also known as ghost signs, and we've cited that provision of the code for the staff report for you, and then we've just provided considerations within the staff report for that. With a little bit of history, first of all, right across the canal, on the north side of the canal from this building, the Kingman Building was recently approved in the last 2 years, I believe, to do a very similar thing, which was painting over an existing ghost sign, and it's now labeled as the Brewer Building. And then since that time, I think it was 2016, the building at 4 East Sheridan, which is where the Melting Pot building is, or the Melting Pot restaurant is, was approved for a new banner sign on the west elevation that says J.E. Dunn Construction, and that was painted over a ghost sign that said Oklahoma Hardware Company. And then prior to both of those examples, the ACM at UCO building, which is at the northwest corner of the canal on Oklahoma Avenue, also has a banner sign on it, and that was approved back in 2011, but the research we've done, we were unable to tell whether or not there was a previous ghost sign in that location. All told, we do have a guideline that does talk about restoration, preservation, and repainting. Clearly, this application does not propose preservation, but it does propose restoration and repainting. So there's nothing in the guidelines that says it has to state the same signage that it was before when you're restoring it, and therefore we've recommended approval of this request to the committee, and we're prepared to respond to any questions the committee may have.
I was, excuse me, I was thinking about that ACM at UCO signage. It seems to me in the beginning there was a banner there. I'm just curious, was that maybe because they were going through due process of actual painting on the building? Do you remember? I wasn't here then.
I wasn't here in 2011, so.
I know the banner you're talking about. I wasn't here. I don't know that.
It was there for the longest time, and I thought it was kind of unusual. So, any further discussion on this? I would entertain a motion.
I motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, Michael, on other business.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm J.J. Chambliss. I'm with the Development Services Department, and we are proposing an amendment to the zoning ordinance that would address Airbnbs, among others. This is a fairly new and growing trend in the hospitality industry, and the way it works is a homeowner can register a bedroom, a number of bedrooms, or in some cases the entire home for overnight or short-term lodging. We're attempting to, we don't have anything in the code currently to address these, and what we're attempting to do is to provide some regulations, some licensing, and the ability to collect the city's hotel motel tax. So what we're doing is we are, in the zoning ordinance, we are creating a definition for these types of rental facilities, and that is lodging accommodations that are provided in a single-family dwelling or rooms in a single-family dwelling for rent for a temporary period of time not to exceed 30 days, and where the owner may or may not reside. We're proposing this to be a conditional use anywhere single-family is permitted. So that would include Bricktown, and that's why we're here today. A conditional use means that there are certain conditions listed in the zoning code that if you meet those conditions, you're eligible to do the home sharing. And those 4 conditions would be the 30-day limit. Condition number 2 would be if you 4 or more than 4 rooms were available for rent, that would kick in building and fire codes that are more stringent than regular single-family building codes. The owner must obtain a home sharing license. We have a companion ordinance to this that's establishing a licensing procedure, and all applicable fees and taxes must be collected and paid. And I know back in August, the City Council has already entered into an agreement with Airbnb to collect and remit those taxes to the city, but there are other than Airbnb that are out there, and certainly an individual could just do this on their own, so we need to try and capture that as well. What we're asking is that you consider this. We will come back, I guess, at your next hearing and ask for some recommendation.
No, we're asking the commission to make a recommendation at this hearing if they're comfortable.
Okay, if you're comfortable, if you have any concerns or a recommendation on the ordinance, we will forward whatever recommendation you make onto the Planning Commission and ultimately onto the City Council.
So is this new across the board in Oklahoma City, or is this just new in this area? Is this a regulation for?
Yes, it's new across the board. Anywhere single-family residential would be permitted. This would become a conditional use, and there are many of them already out there that are operating, trying to get a handle on.
Okay. And is this a semi-bed breakfast scenario? There's a bed and breakfast is something a little more than this. Than 4, perhaps?
Yes, more than 4, or more on more of a business operation where it's an ongoing basis. The Airbnbs are fairly hit and miss, intermittent.
So they're not required to collect hotel, motel tax, anything like that?
Yes, they are. They are. They should be, and we should be collecting that, and that's part of the companion ordinance to this will be the ability to collect that hotel, motel tax.
That's interesting.
In terms of neighborhood associations, can they prevent this permit from being, I know there's been some discussion with some of the neighbors or neighborhoods that do not want people to be able to Airbnb their garage, or is there a way for them to do that, or is this just as long as the individual applies and goes through the process, they can get
If they apply and they go through the process, they meet the conditions in the ordinance, they'd be eligible.
That's good.
Now, a neighborhood association could have private covenants that they would have to enforce themselves. We aren't a party to those covenants.
Right.
So you're saying a neighborhood an organization could override for their neighborhood?
They could attempt to enforce their private covenants. We wouldn't be enforcing those, or we're not a party to those. They're private.
They're empowered to do that?
They're empowered to do that on their own.
Okay.
I've been on record as saying we need to figure this out, that Airbnb is a major national trend, and it's certainly generational, as people, the cool kids, want to live in a neighborhood and go live in a city and feel like what it's like to actually be a local. And I'm encouraged that this is making its way through. I've joked with my daughters that when my oldest goes off to college next year, we're going to Airbnb her room, and of course, we're not going to do that. But anyway, it certainly got everyone's attention in my house. But I think this is fantastic, and I don't believe it will have an adverse impact on the hotels. I believe it will actually make more people interested in coming to Oklahoma City and finding out what a great city we have. And it's hard, if you're an adventure traveler, to get that kind of experience staying at a hotel.
Right.
And it's all about word of mouth marketing. It's all about sort of like taking those amazing Facebook photos or Instagram or whatnot, staying at some interesting person's house and seeing their collection of art, et cetera, et cetera. And I think this is brilliant that we're on our way. Hopefully somebody who has a single family residence in Bricktown will put it on Airbnb, and we'll all be able to
I would be surprised if there's already some out there.
Yeah, there you go. Fantastic.
This is not the same thing. This is people that are collecting money for someone to stay in their residence. Not a host family for somebody coming in.
No.
That's totally different.
No, that's totally private.
Thank you.
So if you have a recommendation, that's fine. If you, any concerns, anything you want us to forward back to the Planning Commission and City Council?
Yes, so we're asking the committee to make a recommendation to Planning Commission. Well, first, this is going to all the design review committees. So all the design review committees will make a recommendation to Planning Commission. Planning Commission will make their recommendation to Council, who will actually make the decision sometime down the line.
I would love to see us make a recommendation that we think, this is good for the city and will help encourage people to come get to know us better.
I second that very long recommendation.
There is a recommendation and a second for that recommendation. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All
Thank you.
opposed, same sign. Thank you. The next item is elect officers. What do we need to do today?
Somebody needs to motion for someone to serve as chair, and then we'll vote on chair, and then somebody will motion for vice chair, and we'll take another vote.
I motion that we elect Brent as chair.
Does Brent accept?
Sure.
I second.
Are you breathing? Okay. There is a motion and a second on the floor to elect Brent as our chair. Is there a second? There is a second? There is a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Congratulations.
I would like to make a motion to make Jonathan the vice chair.
I'd like to second that.
There is a motion and a second to make Jonathan vice chair, and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you.
You notice that Avis didn't ask me if I accepted that or not. She was
I was afraid. Thank you. Okay, Michael, you have got a long list here.
Yes, the first four items under the administrative approval report are associated with the 5 streetcar stops that are located in Bricktown. So we had extensions for all 5 stops in items 1 and 2, and then we had some design revisions for all 5 stops in items 3 and 4. Item 5 is revision to the small building that was approved earlier, I think in 2016, for the parking lot on the west side of North Oklahoma between Maine and Sheridan to add some signs and replace a window with a door. Item 6 is for a patio deck to be changed from a solid concrete foundation to a raised metal foundation because it's in the public right-of-way and there's some utility lines in the way, so they couldn't get a concrete foundation. Item 7 is for some awning to be both removed and installed. Item 8 is for a sign, and item 9 is for some minor changes to the parking lot at the southeast corner of East Sheridan and Joe Carter Avenue.
I always mention this, but I think it hasn't always been that there was this process of approval, and I think it is so nice. I don't know how you feel about that, Michael, because I know it keeps you really busy, but I think it's such a great improvement to expediting this entire process. Anything else, questions on this? No? Planning Department.
The commissioner training coming up.
Yeah, commissioner training, everybody should have a save the date on their calendar. It's going to be in January this year. It is the
26th, I think.
26th in the morning. I'm putting together the agenda as we speak. It's going to be at Central Maintenance Facility. We'll do the similar program in terms of breakfast, a whole lot of programming, and lunch. But last year's comments, it was clear we were trying to squeeze too much in, so we're trying to allow more time for more in-depth coverage of certain topics.
I attended last year, and I really thought it was very interesting. Lots of good information.
I think it's very helpful. We work really hard to make it worth the time.
Yes, yes. Anything else? Committee members? Okay, moving on to the next meeting date of the 10th of January. Have you had anything come in?
I had a contact yesterday morning. Yesterday was the deadline for the January meeting. And they said that they were hurriedly preparing a submittal that they would definitely bring in by the end of the day yesterday.
And that did not happen?
They did not make it. So there's a possibility we could have a meeting if they come in today or tomorrow with that application, but there's holidays coming up and stuff. It's going to make it really hard to, the packet would have to be ready by the end of next week, pretty much. And that's about a week and a half earlier than normal because of holidays and vacations and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure that we're going to have a meeting, but we'll be sure to let you know and keep you posted.
I'm sure Paula will let us know, right? Okay. Okay, anything else? Thank you all very much for coming. Meeting is adjourned.